Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is admonish. And this verb was suggested by the viewer, Qatar. Thank you so much for this suggestion. Now let's take a look and review some of the definitions or the ways that we can use this verb. The first way you might encounter the verb admonish means to warn or reprimand someone firmly. So here we are pointing out maybe they have done something in the wrong way, or their behavior has not been correct, or maybe we're trying to prevent something else negative from happening. A second way you'll encounter this verb, admonish, can mean to advise or urge someone earnestly. So again, here maybe the focus is a little more on the prevention of a bad act. For now, you should know that admonish is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing, and that forms admonishing. The past tense and the participle form of the verb can be made by adding ed. Our base verb, admonish, ends with a unvoiced sh sound. This means our ed ending is going to make a t sound, and we're not going to add an extra syllable as we say it. The past tense and the participle form of our verb should sound like this: admonished, admonished. Okay. Now, there is a phrasal verb you might encounter, and that is to admonish someone for something. And again, this goes back to that first meaning of reprimanding someone. So we're sort of publicly telling them you've done something wrong, or you've behaved in a not ideal sort of way. So an example of this in a sentence might be: the interns were admonished for arriving late on their first day. Okay, so here's an example where we have some not so good behavior, a wrongdoing. They were maybe supposed to be there at 8 o'clock and they showed up afterwards. Okay, now this is an example of passive voice, and you might encounter this verb used in that way. So we don't know exactly who is responsible for the reprimanding, likely a supervisor or a person in a position of authority. But many times the focus is going to be kind of on who's receiving that reprimand. Now let's continue using our verb of the day in a couple different verb tenses. Today we'll practice the imperative and the simple future. Let's start with the imperative. This is a rather unique verb tense in English, and that's because we are either telling someone to do a particular action if it is the affirmative or if it's a positive sentence, or we're telling them not to do a particular action when it is in the negative. We don't have any yes or no questions in this formation or sentence structure. And we also do not have a stated subject. So if you regularly watch my videos, you probably are used to me beginning in that pattern of saying, you, he, I, da, 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 right? We're not doing that here. So in the imperative, the subject is implied. It's just understood that it's either you singular or you plural. It's going to depend on exactly how many people I am communicating my message to. So in the affirmative, you can just begin your sentence with the base verb. No special endings here. So an example of this might be admonish them for hitting. So maybe one parent is telling the other parent, right? I want you to reprimand them. Maybe this person doesn't always want to be kind of the bad guy or the bad gal who's the one doing all the reprimanding. Okay. Now, if you want to make a negative imperative sentence, instead you can begin with do not and then the base verb, or don't and then the base verb. An example of this might be: don't admonish them for every little thing. So now maybe the second parent is kind of suggesting back, you know what, we don't have to reprimand every single little thing that our children do because that's all we would spend our time doing. Now, sometimes students will tell me that making sentences in this way can feel a little rude or impolite to just communicate or tell someone to do an action. So remember, you can always either put the word please at the beginning of a sentence, either affirmative or negative, or you can put it at the end, and that can help you maybe feel a little more confident in how you're communicating, your tone, your level of politeness. Now let's move on and make some sentences in the simple future. Today we're going to discuss making sentences with be going to. This is most commonly used as people discuss their plans, but you might also encounter it when people make predictions or offers as well. Now, this is a verb tense where we need to pay attention to our subject. And that's because the first part of our verb is going to be the present form of be. And we have 3 forms of be in the present tense. So this means if your subject is I, you want to use am, going, to, and then the base verb. If your subject is he, she, or it, use is going to, and then the base verb. And finally, if your subject is you, we, or they, use are, A-R-E, going to, and then the base verb. Let's look at an example sentence. My doctor is going to admonish me for all the sweets I've been eating. So this could be that reprimand, right? Kind of like, I told you not to do this. Maybe it's not good. Someone might be pre-diabetic, trying to kind of watch how much sugar is being consumed. But sometimes we'll hear this word used also as it's sort of connected as a warning for one's health. Now, if you want to make a negative simple future sentence with be going to, again, we pay attention to our subject, use the form of be that matches, followed by not, going, to, and then the base verb. Here's another example. People aren't going to admonish you for not knowing things since this is your first job. Okay? So maybe someone is trying to be really reassuring that you're not going to hear sort of constant negative feedback about all the things that maybe are going wrong or the mistakes you're making, because maybe we're talking about something that's considered a very entry-level job where it's sort of expected. You will make mistakes. Now let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple future. To do this, start with your form of be, whatever form matches your subject, that subject comes next. Then use going to and then the base verb. Here's another example. Is she going to admonish her students? So maybe asking about someone's plans here. Could be other administrators, maybe something bad happened while that teacher was away and had a substitute in her classroom, right? So now let's spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb admonish. And the first word we'll discuss is the noun form of the word, and that is admonishment. So when we use this word as a noun, we are talking either about a very firm warning or a firm reprimand. An example of this. The judge now faces public admonishment for his courtroom misconduct. So this is kind of like a formal statement declaring someone has behaved badly. There could be other types of punishment that go along with this, but that's what's being discussed in that sentence. Another word you might encounter is the noun admonisher. That ER suffix generally tells us a person or thing that, right? And we can go back to our root word. So here, an admonisher is someone who advises or warns someone firmly. An example of this is in the sentence here. She demonstrated her excellence as a wife, mother, encourager, admonisher, comforter, counselor, and nurturer. I saw a sentence very similar to this in someone's obituary. So, the kind of public announcement of someone's death and a little bit of history about this person's life. So, this individual's family saw her as having many different roles and jobs. So you saw the kind of encouraging piece, right, that has that positive tone to it. Admonish can have a bit of a negative tone here. However, right, that certainly is many times a parent's duty, right, to advise their children, warn them, to keep them safe and well off. Thanks again for the suggestion of this verb. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.